So last Friday, I finally got my CCNA, which, if you don't know, is the Cisco Certified Network Associate. And I got it after, like, I want to say 7, 8 months of studying and semi-consistent study. And I wasn't going the whole time, but yeah, I'm I'm officially a CCNA holder, and I wanted to make the video for other people who are thinking about going for the CCNA, or maybe you're coming from Net Plus, which I did before my CCNA early in the year, and kind of give you tips and tricks and resources that I use and the mentality that I went to for the CCNA and why I decided to do it. So, why did I decide to go for the CCNA? The main reason I went for the CCNA is because I want to build a career in cybersecurity and specifically red teaming. So I thought that having a strong network background would give me a strong advantage if I'm applying for cybersecurity jobs, or penetration testing, bounty hunting, things like that. And yeah, I just thought it would give me a strong, because I don't want to be like what they call like a script kiddie, where you know the methodology, but you don't understand why the things are working the way they're working. So now I want to get into the tools I use to pass my CCNA. The first one is Anki. So if you're watching a video series like Jeremy's IT Lab, which we're going to get into, if you're watching a video series like that and you're taking notes, which is extremely important, you're not going to remember. You shouldn't expect yourself to remember everything that's mentioned. You should, however, set up a system where you're called on to try to remember over an extended period of time. Oh, let me turn the AC. So while reviewing is great and just rereading is okay, it's not effective at all. So in place of that, I use Anki for what's called spaced repetition. So spaced repetition spaces out the time you would need to remember your flashcards. So if there's an important fact or straight numbers or definition you're struggling to remember, I'd highly recommend you use Anki in order to remind yourself or force yourself to remember what you need to remember for the CCNA. And an example of that would be like different IPv6 addresses. For the life of me, I was struggling to remember what a link local was, what a global unicast was, etc., etc. And so for me, I use Anki to remember things like definitions or transfer speeds, identifying different IPv6 and IPv4 addresses, especially when it gets into the different classes of addresses. But at the end of the day, you can use it for whatever you want. I've also used it for my Network Plus and to learn a little bit of German. So I can highly recommend you use Anki. And what's super convenient about it, is the fact that there's also shared decks. So even if you don't want to make your own, there's a lot of ready-made decks on the Anki shared website. And it only works if you use it consistently. So some flashcards I would recommend is from the Jeremy IT series. He gives you free flashcards, and if you buy Neil Anderson's CCNA course on Udemy, he also has his own set of flashcards that I would also highly, highly recommend. And whenever you have free time, just do your flashcards. it's not about feeling like doing it. You have to get into the mentality of it being a discipline. Okay? It's not when I was studying, it wasn't about I didn't study when I felt like it. I studied because I needed to do it. Because there was a end goal that that I beforehand painted out just for myself. It made studying a lot easier to commit to because it was an obligation. I made a promise to myself that this is what I wanted. So if it's something you're really serious about and there's an end goal you see yourself achieving, then you need to discipline yourself that every day at this time, I'm going to study. And why I'm going to study? I'm studying because, I don't know, I want to get into cloud architecture and I want to work remote, or I want to get into cybersecurity. It can't be something that you do just because you feel like it. You do it because you have to do it, because it's a job, and the job needs to be done whether you like it or not. And I also want to talk about scheduling your daily studying. So what I would say, if your schedule permits it, set the same time every single day that you study to study. So while I'm not working right now, I have a lot of free time, but I still treat studying as if it was a job. Like I'm showing up to do work. And so being in that mentality, I have the same routine, and it gets a lot of negotiating that we tend to do with ourselves out of the way. I don't have to think about it. I just know tomorrow what I have to do. I have the same schedule every day. There's no anxiety about, I don't feel like it, or maybe I could do this or push it back. No. I know at 10 a.m. my timer is going to start, and I'm going to be studying for like the next 2 hours. And I think it also helps your body to acclimate to getting mentally ready. It knocks out like a lot of anxiety you may have when it comes to prepping and studying, and that little demon on your shoulder that's telling you like maybe you don't have to study today. It moves past all of that. So what I'd say again is set the same time every single day that you're going to study for this amount of time. And you don't have to do, let's say like if you were committed to studying for 2 hours, you don't have to study for 2 hours straight. What I use is the Pomodoro technique, which is I study for 25 minutes, then I take a break for 5 minutes, and then I do that till I reach 2 hours max, and then I take a 15-minute break. Or I can take an extended break and then come back later because I have something else I want to cover. If I find I have more free time, I'm going to commit myself to using that free time to study, which cuts the time that it takes away from me getting my CCNA. So some resources I would recommend is Jeremy's IT Lab. It's a video course that a lot of people recommend. I also personally use it. I also use his video course as well as his flashcards, which I recommended earlier. Do what you need to do to understand and practice your subnetting. Practice subnetting as much as you can. Just keep practicing. I mentioned flashcards earlier, and I also want to mention Boson XSIM. Now, the method to use Boson XSIM, I'd say, is to finish the Jeremy's IT Lab course, and then once you finish the entire course, start doing the XSIM practice exams, which you get 315 questions, I think, over 3 exams. And you can do the simulations to see where you're at. And then what's great about it too is that it breaks down the categories where you failed at, and you can also review and save your questions. And also for any wrong questions you get, they also break down and give like a pretty detailed explanation of why you were wrong and And what I would do is take those incorrect questions and write down all the questions that you got wrong for your review, and then categorize those wrong questions into things you can add to your Anki list, videos you can review on your own personal time outside of just the video course. So Googling is really important. And you may have noticed a change of clothes, and that's because I stopped feeling like recording. But here we are. I had a coffee. Let's do it. Okay. So Jeremy's IT lab, subnetting practice, flashcards, Boson XM, but only do Boson XM after you finish your whatever video course you are more prone to. Jeremy's IT course is going to teach you exactly what you need to know, but Neil Anderson's course gets into the nitty gritty of IT networking. It trains you to be like a network, to think like a network engineer, and gives you a lot of detail and a lot of detailed explanation on what you need to know. But I did Jeremy's IT lab because I don't know, I just took to it more. So what I did was I set a time every day, like 10 a.m. I think, and I decided for myself that I was going to study for at least 2 hours. Studying for me, it's extremely hard. Just staying focused and being on track and not getting distracted. So that's where the Pomodoro technique. So even if I don't study, I can't do anything else. I have to study and I have to train myself to at least go for 2 hours. And when I was first starting out, I only did for like an hour 30. That wasn't enough. So it was important for me to try to go for a little bit longer. So I started with like an hour, then I went an hour 30, and then I capped it off at 2 hours. And then whatever I studied, I also added. But if I studied any more later in the day, I would try to hit a 25-minute mark every time. Every time I sat down to study, outside of what I needed the length I needed to study for, I made sure that it ended up being 25 minutes. And so, yeah, that's basically what I did to pass the CCNA. If you have any questions, you can ask them. I won't give details about the exam, obviously. But if you have any questions about how I studied or why I studied, then I would love to make a second video for you. And yeah, so the next certificate I was thinking of going for is, I was going to say the OSCP, but in the interim, I think I'm going to go for a server administrator certificate, i.e. the Azure 104. This is like a beginner hybrid thingy associate, server admin associate. And then after that, I'm going to get the OSCP because I think the Azure will only take like a few months, like 2 months. So it shouldn't take too long. I don't think the exam will be as intense, but what I do is I use Reddit a lot when it comes to finding out general topics about the exam, about the CCNA exam, or specific flashcards that other people are using, or study methods that they utilize. I just learn and copy from them. And yeah, so Azure 104 is going to be my next certificate. And then after that, I'm going to settle down and try to go for my OSCP. So I might make a second video talking about what I plan to do to study for the OSCP, and maybe it'll help. Maybe it'll translate well too for the CCNA if you guys are thinking about going for it. But yeah, thank you for watching the video. I hope it helps. I hope it answered a few questions that you were interested in. And I got the fucking CCNA. Okay, have a great day.